Of the Deity Yoga Prayer Book. So we'll begin. We're going to go all the way through the opening prayers, doing the seven limb prayer and also the mandala offering. So if you have those books and pieces of paper, if you don't have it, it's okay. Just relax and listen as we recite these different prayers. We begin with the altruistic motivation. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Dagla dangwa je pedra no pa je pege. Darpa dang dam shaken pe bar du jo par je pa tam shaki so je pe. Manam ka dam yam pe sem chen tam she de wa dang den. Dog now dang drel nor du la na me pa yang dak pa zog pe zhang ju brin po she to pa ja. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Deshe du sang ma ge gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Ma she bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Du de ring ne song te ni ma sang ta sam gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Transcends Hawa Dangur Parje Pe Pao Dan Lama Dam Pa Nam La Kab Su Chio. Ye Dam Kil Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kab Su Chio. Sangye Chom Den De Nam La Kab Su Chio. Dam Pe Cho Nam La Kab Su Chio. Pa pe ge du nam la kap su chi o. Pa wo ka jo cho kyung song me song yes she gi jang dang dem pa nam la kap su chi o. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. until I attain the heart of enlightenment. I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Shangju Ningpo Chi Bar Sangye Namla Kyabsu Chi Chodang Shangshub Sampayi Soklang Deshin Kyabsu Chi Jitar Nonggi Deshegi Shangshub Tugni Ke Padang Shangshub Sampe La Pala De Dagrim Shin E Patar De Shin Dro La Pendandu Shangshub Samni Ke Gishing De Shin Du Ni La Pala Rimpa Shindu La Pa Ji O. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang Soki Chodam Shangju Badu Dagni Kapsu Chi Dagi Jin Soki Pe Sanamgi Drola Penshir Sangye Jupa Sho. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pe sem chen tam she dewa dang dewe gudang dempa jorchi. Dug now dang donal gi gudang drawa jorchi. Dug now me pe dewa dang midra wa jorchi. Ne ring chak dang ni dang drawe dang namla ne pa jorchi. Now the 7-limb prayer. I bow down respectfully with my body, speech, and faithful mind to all Tathagatas in the 10 directions, those who have already reached the Tathagata state, those who are reaching it at present, and those Tathagatas still to come. Through the power of Samantabhadra's prayers, may all the Buddhas manifest vividly in my mind. I prostrate to them, multiplying my body as many times as there are atoms of the earth. In each atom, I visualize as many Buddhas as there are atoms, surrounded by countless bodhisattvas. Thus, all space is filled with Buddhas and bodhisattvas. I praise all Buddhas through magnificent chanting, expressing the great ocean of their excellent qualities. To all Buddhas, I make offerings of various pure flowers, flower garlands, of music, anointing oils, magnificent light, and fragrant incense. I make offerings to them of fine garments, perfume, and potpourri, piled high as Mount Meru and arranged in the most beautiful way. I visualize the highest and most extensive offerings and offer them with great faith to all Buddhas. I prostrate to the Buddhas and make offerings to them, following the deeds of the great Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. I confess to you, Buddhas, whatever negative actions I have committed due to the power of anger, desire, and ignorance. I rejoice in the merit of all the Buddhas in the 10 directions, of the great Bodhisattvas and Pratyeka Buddhas, those who have attained Arhatship, those who have entered the path to Arhatship, and all other beings. I request to all great protectors and Buddhas to turn the highest wheel of Dharma as the light dispelling the darkness of the beings of the 10 directions and leading them gradually to the enlightened state. I supplicate those Buddhas intending to pass into parinirvana to live long for as many eons as there are atoms of the earth in order to benefit all beings. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Now the short mandala offering. So those of you who don't have the Deity Yoga book, you may have it on a separate piece of paper like this. On one side is the short mandala offering, and the other is the supplication to Lord Jigten Sumgun. So now we're going to recite prayers from those 2 pages. The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and the moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. To the lamas who possess the 3 kayas, I offer the outer, inner, and secret offerings with my body, wealth, and all that is visible. Please grant me the supreme realization, enlightenment. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offering, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Om, Guru, Ratna, Mandala, Puja, Mega, Samudra, Saparana, Samaye, Ahom. Now in Tibet. Sashi Pocho Jogme Totram, Rirab Linshi Nide Kenpadi, Sange Shinla Mikte Powayi, Drokun Namdag Shindu Kewaso, Krusong Yong Sogla Me Sognam Chunang Shang Sum De Shin Yiki Cho, Daglu Long Cho Nakshi Yong She La, Le Me Cho Gi No Drub Sadu So, Chaksa Wadang Cho Ching Sapadang, Jesu Yi Dwang Kol Sing So Wa Yi, Krus Ge Wa Jung Se Dagi Ji Sakpa, Tam She Zog Pe Shang Jub Cherno. Om Guru Ratna Mandala Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Ahom. Now the supplication to Lord Jigten Sumgun. Unequaled refuge, ornament of the world, your fame pervades the 3,000 worlds. You are the victor Vajradhara without a doubt. I bow at the feet of the Father Jigten Sumgun. Continually I think of no one but you. Compassionate one, grant your blessings. Dispel the darkness that surrounds my heart. Please bless me so that I can realize the unelaborated nature of mine. Jabdrangi dome zamlingen, dragpe tong som yong lakya, so me gyawa dorje chang, pa jigten gong pe shaladu, Tu tak tu samgyu kyo le me. Jinji lob shik tok je chen. Yingi mon pa sa ne kang. Samjo dra du to pa jinji lo. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the disposition and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings. Samchen namgi sampadang lo yi je dak jitawa je chung tom mok te pa yi Choki Korlo Kordu So. Okay, thank you very much. Those are the opening prayers. Does anybody have any questions about any of the prayers? Anything that we recited? Okay. So what we're doing here in Buddha Practice 201 is getting familiar with the deities. Not all the deities, but a few of them, the enlightened ones. And what we're trying to familiarize ourselves with is the body, speech, and mind of them, the outer appearances, the speech that they have, the mantras that they have, and also the mindfulness of what it is that they are representing. But we're also getting familiar with the qualities of these enlightened ones and their activities, how it is that they are bringing forth the bodhicitta. So the essence of all the enlightened ones is bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, the holy enlightened mind, bodhicitta. They all have that. But in the way in which they are actualizing bodhicitta is different between them. And that's what makes them different. So we're learning those differences. The qualities, some of the qualities are different with them, that they all have the same qualities, but the way in which they are using those qualities for the benefit of the enlightenment of other beings is what we focus on when we do their practices. So the qualities, the activities, their body, speech, and mind. So these are the five aspects of the enlightened ones that we're familiarizing ourselves. Now, these enlightened ones are not out there as much, they are in here within our heart, they're within ourselves. They may be blocked up by our emotions, our confusion, our ignorance, our mental misconceptions, our habitual tendencies, and so on like that. They're blocked up with these things. But we need to be able to remove those blockages, to purify those blockages so that we can open up and then we can see that bodhicitta that is within ourselves, and we can recognize and see these holy enlightened ones that have been within us all this time. So as we do that, we realize that these holy enlightened ones are everywhere. It's everywhere. It's not just within ourselves, it's everywhere. But first we have to recognize it within ourselves. So we're not praying to some being outside to enlighten us or something like that. We're praying to ourselves. We're remembering to ourselves that this is the process in order that we remove those blockages so that we can recognize this the body, speech, and mind, the qualities and the activities of these enlightened deities within ourselves. So if anybody has questions while I'm talking, don't hesitate to bring it up. Sorry, I just had something I wanted to say, and I want to make sure I got it.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is what we're doing with some of the practices around the deities. Is it different than like the generation or even completion stage that they do in tantra? Or do it like often they need like empowerments to do these things? I don't know if it's like a different practice overall, or how does it relate to or similar or different than when people are practicing like the tantra traditionally?
Yes, these are tantric deities.
Right.
And so what we're doing here is an introduction to these. So the empowerment would be the ceremony that is performed by the Lama, by the Vajra master, who is introducing you in a deeper way. We're doing it here more in an outer way and learning the mantra. But in empowerment, it's a much deeper process. And that becomes the generation stage. That becomes the generation of yourself as the deity, to be able to see all the outer attributes of the deity and so on, but also to understand the inner mind and those deeper qualities and activities of the deity. So that's the generation stage of the deity. So what we're doing here is concentrating on an introduction. The completion stage comes when you do the practice and you go through the generation, you visualize yourself as the deity, you become the deity sits on top of your head and comes down into your heart center and so on, and you're visualizing the seed syllable and the mantra that's going around the seed syllable. And then you do the dissolution, you do the meditation, the dissolution, where all that all dissolves into light, into your heart center, into that seed syllable, and then dissolves into the emptiness, dissolves into the shunyata. That's the completion. That's the completion stage. So we do the visualization many, 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 many times before we really get a stable glimpse at what the completion is. The completion would be when you finish the practice, that you still are the deity, that you recognize yourself as the deity, and you begin to actualize your everyday deeds as being the deity. That's the completion stage. Now, in the beginning, we're going to do that in glimpses. We're going to do that a little bit at a time. So we may be able to do it while we're still sitting on the cushion, but as soon as we finish the practice, we lose it. Or that maybe we're able to sustain it through the practice. We're able to get up off the cushion and go out and start doing our things until something happens that maybe disturbs us and that breaks the concentration or the absorption of that completion stage. But the more and more that we do it, the more and more we're able to stabilize it, and the more and more we're able to recognize ourselves as the Buddha, as an enlightened one. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. And so with how we're practicing them, it is very similar to like an initial generation stage when someone's first practicing,
Well,
you
it
know,
is the same.
whether they had the empowerment or no. I didn't know like if there was some kind of more in-depth version of the practice once you have the empowerment and do stuff, if there's like a more in-depth sadhana or something, or if there's something we're doing that's
Well, the depth comes from the meaning. The depth comes from the meaning. We may be saying the same words, following the same instructions, but during the empowerment, there's more meaning there. The Vajra Master will give the three kindnesses, the kindness of the empowerment ceremony itself, the instructions of how to practice and what it is that we're practicing, and a background of the deity, who the deity is, and so on. So there's more instruction there, there's more depth of meaning. And then also the heart transmission. So those are the three kindnesses, where the Lama is reciting the transmission from his heart to your heart, to our hearts. So that's what makes it a deeper practice. So we can do these peaceful deities. The deities that we're concentrating on here are the peaceful deities. And we can do these deities as we are, lay people, being taught by a lay person. We can do these, we can recite these because they are peaceful deities. When we have the opportunity to take the empowerment, we should take the empowerment. But we can continue to do these practices, and there will be some recognition of the meaning of the deities even before we have the empowerment. But the empowerment really is more powerful, brings more meaning to it that the Lama would bring to us, and so on. So we can do that. So if you have a copy of the book called the Pearl Rosary, the Pearl Rosary is Kenshin Rinpoche's teaching on each one of these practices that we're doing, the exact same practices that we're doing. And so he says in the book what I just said, that we can do these practices as lay people, but we need to take the empowerment when we can.
Thanks.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead. So again,
thank you for the explanation.
you're welcome. So remember, we keep going around these circles. We keep going around these cycles. And each time we go around these cycles, we understand a little bit more. So have patience with yourself, have patience with the process, have perseverance to keep at it. And slowly, you'll be able to recognize more and more of what this whole process is.
Lance?
Yes, sir.
What exactly is the empowerment, and is that something I should look forward to, or what?
Oh, absolutely. Well, Lama Gersum did a empowerment with us when we were here last Sunday at my home.
Okay.
That was an empowerment, and there's more. Remember, he came with the blessings, and he gave more of an introduction. He gave more of a background of Amitayus, and so that he did all those things.
Yes.
And he also had the blessings with the Dutsi, with the Bumpa, and we took the medicine and we put it on top of our head and everything. So that's all part of the ceremony of doing that.
I see. Okay, and then so we're going to work from this now, yes?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So one other thing I'd like to say is there's a top-down learning and experience, and there's a bottom-up learning and experience. We have been born many times, not specifically as Lance or as Mark or as Matt or as Gary, but as beings, as sentient beings. We've been born many times, and we've died many times. And when we go through that experience, particularly the experience from the time that we're living to the time that we die, our physical body dies, then we become pure spirit. Our spirit is released. And then we're in this bardo of reality, we call it. And in that bardo of reality, either we're able to stabilize our spirituality and remain the deity, to remain that spiritual being, or we're not prepared to remain that, so we need to become incarnated again into another body. So this experience is like a top-down experience. We want to have control. We're developing a way to have that control. But when we go through the period of time from our physical body, from our living, into the bardo of reality, we go through the bardo of death. And we have very little control over that. So it's kind of like a top down. It's kind of like falling through something, you know, if you want to use that analogy. It's kind of like falling through something, like if the floor just opened up and we're falling through, and then we're just all of a sudden just in this space that we have no control over in the beginning. So it's like a top down. So, but we've experienced this all many times because we've done this many times. We've been born many times and we've died many times. We've been in this space, this bardo of reality many times. The bottom up is what we're doing now, is where we are intellectually learning all the different facets of being the diamond, of being this indestructible nature. We're intellectually charging ourselves up with this spirituality. The spirituality's been there, but now we're revealing it to ourselves. So it's a bottom up. We're learning. We say, oh, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's not this, it's not this, and so on. We're making intellectual choices and so on to do that. So as we accumulate this wisdom and knowledge and so on, as we then go through the next cycle of birth and death, that we have more control. We begin to recognize things. As we are going through this bottom up, we begin to remember, oh yes, there's a familiarity with this deity, or there's a familiarity with this particular quality. Yes, I've always thought that, but I've never been able to do anything about it. And now you have a wisdom and you're learning a skillful means, a method in the way to actualize that. So that's what these practices are all about, is familiarizing ourselves with the spacious enlightened ones. And then we begin to make these connections. The more and more we do these over and over again. The cycle spins around, keeps going around. I talk about the spiral and so on. So that's why we're doing these things. So there's a bottom up that helps us to build up our knowledge base so that when we have the top down, now we have more control over that top down. And we can direct that top-down experience, but also when we're in that bardo of reality and we know that we're not prepared enough to be able to stabilize our spirituality, to remain in that we have to take another body for many different reasons, that we have the tools to be able to guide ourselves into a good rebirth, into a good karmic experience. So I would say that all of us here today are the beneficiaries of that process many, many times that we don't recognize right now. But because we have this life, I see you, Mark, but because we have this life now, with these benefits of being able to receive these teachings, be able to have the mental acuity that we have and so on, this is all the result of our past good karma. Yes, Mark.
I understand we enter the bardo after our spirit has left our former body, but I don't understand what you mean when you say the bardo of reality.
The bardo of reality is seeing all things as it is we talk about our relative phenomenal nature. That's the truth of this phenomenal nature. The bardo of reality is being able to see that phenomenal nature as emptiness.
Yeah, I see that now.
But at the same time, simultaneously, it is the Dharmakaya. It is the mind of the Buddha that is non-conceptual. And that is That is the bardo of reality. That is the reality that we're talking about. So you see the hand, and you see both sides of the hand. You see the relative and the absolute, but you see it from a perspective that is non-conceptual. That's the reality. Being able to see all this, but from that perspective of non-conceptual, that is Buddha nature.
That's very interesting, for sure.
Yes, and for us, it's an experience that we can have a glimpse of over and over and over again through our practices. This is what our practices are guiding us to, is to have those experiences of those glimpses. And then those glimpses become longer. They become deeper. That you are able to understand more as an ordinary human being. You're bringing that experience back into your humanness, and this is stabilizing you more in the direction of becoming that enlightened being.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Thank you. Okay. So there is wisdom and there is method. So the wisdom is this intellectualization of doing all these things, what it is that we're doing it, why we are doing it. And the next is the how, is the method, how we are doing it, what the method is for us to be able to become the embodiment of this wisdom and skillful means. So that as we begin to have these glimpses and so on, these glimpses become, as I say, they get stronger, they get broader, they get deeper and so on. And the glimpses become visions. That we visualize things, we see, now I see this as a Buddha field. You know, in the beginning, I glimpse it as a Buddha field. You know, but now I see it as a Buddha field all the time. You know, so that's a metaphor for the visions. So it'll mean more and more and more to you as you continue along this path and stabilize more and more the experiences that we're opening ourselves up to. So this deity yoga, so this the yoga means union. Yoga means union. So we are becoming in union with this spiritual nature, this Buddha nature that we have within ourselves. So intellectually and experientially, that we are coming into union with it. So that's why we do these practices over and over again. And just to put another point on it, is that this is a feature of the Vajrayana. So we talked about the yanas before. The yanas are the three vehicles, the Hinayana, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana. So the Hinayana is the discipline aspect, developing discipline, developing a knowledge base. The Mahayana is the realization of the connectedness of all beings and recognizing that our happiness comes when all beings are connected together and happy together in peace and so on. And when there is suffering, that we work to be able to help to diffuse that suffering. And we do that, a feature of being able to do that is the recognition of the emptiness of this phenomenal nature. The emptiness, that why get upset about something that is just an apparition, something that we have created with our intellectual mind. So this is all part of the Mahayana, this emptiness and letting go. and having devotion for the Dharma, the devotion for other human beings, other sentient beings, and so on like that, developing that. Then the Vajrayana is becoming the embodiment of that, is becoming the Buddha, the mind of the Buddha. That now we become the mind of the Buddha, and everything that we do is an activity of the Buddha. And that we ultimately can become Brendan Buddha. We can become Gary Buddha. We can become Zara Buddha, etc. In order to get there, we become Bodhisattva Brendan. We become Bodhisattva Matt. We become Bodhisattva Mark, etc. So we have stages on which we are doing that. Yes, Gary.
Yes, I don't want to take more than an instant with this, Lance, but I just wanted to do I was doing a little researching on Buddha field or on Buddhism in general, and I came across the fact that there's actually a rather unpleasant cult that is called Buddha field. And so I only mention this that in case any of us are discussing it with our friends writ large, I doubt that many of them would know about it, but it's a pretty bad group, and that's what they call themselves, and they recruit and they do bad things. So I just wanted to mention that you can look into it offline if you're further interested in it. But
all right, thank you.
Somebody may think you're talking about something else if you talk about it.
Yes, and you know, there's a purity in Buddhism, and we need to find that purity, but there is also an absence of purity in many people, and that's what Gary's referring to. So you have to be circumspective about who your teachers are, who your associates are, who you're reading, you know, what books you're reading, and so on like that. And this is where the Sangha comes in to help us in order to support, you know, what we're doing, you know, what our teachings are, what our practices are. We should be talking about this between ourselves so that we don't get into traps that maybe one person knows about, but some other person is following this trap, you know, and gets caught up in it and so on. Pardon me. Okay. So are there any other questions about anything that I've been talking about? So now we're going to look at the sadhana. So a sadhana, sadhana, is a Sanskrit word for a practice. It means a practice. And that's what is in this book or in the Deity Yoga book, whoops, whichever one you happen to have handy that we're using. The sadhana is a practice book. So this is a guided generation, if you will, into a particular enlightened one or in a particular deity. So today we're going to do Manjushri. So last time we did Shen Rezig, if you remember that. So if you go to your page in here or your page in the Deity Yoga book, whichever you have, let me see. Page 2829 in the Deity Yoga book. And also, if you have your package of cards that I had sent to you at one time or another, maybe not everybody has this card, but if you don't, the picture is on page 28 of the sadhana. So you're not missing anything, but it's just a picture. So this is a meditation card and becomes very useful because it helps us to visualize the deity and also gives the translation for his or her mantra. Okay, so we begin by visualizing the outer appearance of Manjushri. So we look at the image of Manjushri and we see that he is sitting on a lotus pedestal. So we've talked about the significance of the lotus many times, coming up from the defilements, from the ooze and the mud at the bottom of the ocean of samsara, and the seed sprouts, and here, and then from that seed, from that stem, comes this beautiful pure lotus that is above the ocean of samsara. So this is the throne on which the deity, this meditational deity, is sitting. And then he is sitting on a white moon disk. So the moon disk is the compassion of the loving kindness and the wisdom of the mind of the Buddha, of the mind of the deity. So it's like two sides of the same hand, another explanation of the hand. The one side is the wisdom, is the sun, is the yellow disc, the wisdom disc, the hot disc. And on the other side is the moon, is the white disc, is the compassion. So there's the hot, fiery wisdom, and then there's the cooling compassion. So the peaceful deities, and Manjushri is one of them, is sitting on the white disc. Underneath of that, you don't see it, but underneath of that is the yellow disc. The two always are simultaneous. They're both there. So he's sitting on the moon disk, and he is in the full lotus position. His legs are crossed. It's a very stable position. And this is called the full lotus position of the meditational deities, of the Bodhisattva. So he is a Bodhisattva, a holy enlightened being. He is a meditational deity. A meditational deity is part of the Sambhogagaya. The Sambhogagaya. The enjoyment body of the Buddha, the subtle enjoyment body. So it's mental, it's the mental and the spiritual coming together. The mental and the spiritual coming together. The recognition of the spiritual essence of what these are. It's intellectualizing what that is. So he's got a golden body, a yellow golden body that represents his untarnished ability. He is pure and not tarnished, and that the gold is rich and is pure and is represents our purity in that way, as being rich, and enrichment, like a jewel, a gold, like the ore that comes from the earth. In his on his crown, he's wearing the crown of the five Buddha families. So the five Buddha families are the families of the we haven't talked about this too much. The five Buddhas are Varanchana and Ascobia and Ratnasambhava and Amitabha and Amagog City. And that each of these are the heads of the male heads of the families, these five families, and they are the embodiment of the five wisdoms. So each of those five wisdoms then are broken down into the bodhisattvas. So the bodhisattvas are like the spiritual sons of those heads of the family, of those five Buddha families. So the crown that he's wearing has five jewels in that are symbolizing those five wisdoms. So we will get into that a little bit later. But I just want to point out that that's what he is wearing. The next thing, in his left hand, he is holding the stem of a lotus flower, and that lotus flower is at his left ear. So in one of these pictures, the lotus is a red, pink colored lotus, and the other one is a blue colored lotus. And, it depends on the artist. It's, the color is not, particularly important here. But the lotus represents the purity, right? And from that purity, on top of that lotus, if you look carefully, you see that there is a book. And the book is the Prajna Paramita, is all the combined teachings of the Buddha, the perfection of wisdom, the perfection of the mind of the Buddha is the Prajna Paramita. So, so this is at his left. And so the left is the side that is coming in. We receive with the left. It comes in, and the left comes up our left arm and goes to our heart. Our heart is on the left side of our body. So that left is coming in like that. So there's a meaning there that we receive with the left. So that wisdom is coming in, that pure wisdom is coming in from the left. Then it circles our heart. It circles our heart, goes round our heart, this wisdom going round our heart, and then goes out through the right. And the right, he is holding a flaming sword of wisdom over his head. This flaming sword of wisdom cuts through ignorance, cuts through confusion, cuts through the emotions, cuts through all this negativity, cuts through all attachment and aversion and so on. So this becomes the activity of Manjushri. He's receiving this wisdom, coming in, going round his heart, and then it goes out through the action of his flaming sword to cut through all the confusions and so on like that. So just looking at the statue or the image of Manjushri connotes quite a lot already. He is the Bodhisattva. He is the holy enlightened being of wisdom. And this wisdom is both the ordinary phenomenal wisdom of what this nature is around us, empty as it is, but it has a relative meaning and the wisdom of what all that means and how it works and so on like that, but also the wisdom of the absolute, the wisdom of the space, the wisdom of the Buddha mind. It has that wisdom too. That's the Prajna Paramita. And to be able to see that, to be able to recognize that too. And he is like a youthful student. He's a young man who is on the path to be able to cultivate all that, to be able to recognize that, to be able to play with that, to be able to experience that. And the wisdom comes, particularly the wisdom in the phenomenal nature, comes with a great understanding of failure. And we should not allow ourselves to not fail. In other words, sometimes we have to start someplace, and we may not know exactly what we're doing, but we have to open ourselves up to the experience. And sometimes the experience is the failure, which then points out what the success is. So we should have courage when we do this and not say, oh, I can't go there because I'm so afraid, I'm so afraid. Let your fear go and raise up your courage and embark on that, because it will lead you to wisdom, the wisdom of the failure, the wisdom of the success. You know that when you're explaining something to your kids or something like that, and you say, well, don't go out in traffic, don't touch the stove, don't do this, don't do that, you're going to hurt yourself. You're speaking from experience. because you probably did all those things yourself and you suffered the consequences of all those things. But you know very well that it's not going to mean as much to your kids until they themselves open themselves up to that bad experience. Then they'll know it. So we need to recognize the courage that it takes to be able to embark on a wisdom path. And sometimes there is wasted time, sometimes there's wasted effort, sometimes there is pain that comes along with it because we didn't do something right and so on. But we have to use that in order to have that wisdom, that we know both sides. So as a teacher, we need to know both sides to be able to properly instruct our students or our children and so on. Does that make sense? You see that? Okay. So that flaming sword, has two cutting edges. It's cutting through, the difficulty. It's cutting through the easy stuff. It's cutting through the pleasurable stuff, because the pleasurable stuff becomes food for attachment. And the attachments then turn into sorrow, turn into pain when we lose those things that we love so much. When we lose that happiness, now we have suffering. So the thing is to become neutral towards all those things. We bring it all onto the path. We want to neutralize the suffering, that's obvious, but we also need to neutralize the happiness so that we don't get too caught up in it. And that's the realization of how we deal with our families, our personal families. We love our families. We're very much attached to them. We want nothing but happiness for them and so on. But, for all of us, at one time or another, we have to let go of our families. They get older, the kids move out of the house, our parents pass away, our kids get sick, all these things happen, and ultimately we have to go. So we have to let go of them, loving them as much as we do. But we have to develop a equanimity towards them, that when they do good things, when they do bad things, whether they're going to come or go, they have their own lives to live. And we have to teach them as best we can to be the navigators of their lives, which is another way of saying Manjushri. We have to become Manjushri in order that we can teach Manjushri to our children and to those who are our students and so on. So when we talked about compassion, we talked about Shenrezig last time. We were talking about compassion, that there is this wisdom, there is this knowing, but then we're not always in this wisdom, we're not always in this knowing, and we have compassion for that. The compassion is I'm going to help you, I'm going to do things for you, I'm going to show you how to do things for yourself and so on. So Manjushri now is a step in that direction by saying, here's how you develop, and here's how you develop this wisdom, this two-sided wisdom, this wisdom of the positive and the negative, the seeing our dualistic nature.
Lance,
Yes.
is the positive and the negative what you mean by dual nature, by
Yes.
dualism?
Yes.
Okay.
And any dualism, but positive and negative is, a very stark empirical way of looking at it.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So then we start with the practice. So we go to page 29. So it says, meditation on all pervading emptiness. Om Shunyata Jana Bhajra Sobhava Atmako Ham. So what it's saying here is, Om, that my identity, my body, speech, and mind is the indestructible nature of emptiness wisdom. I am the embodiment of that indestructible nature of emptiness wisdom. So that's a big mouthful. you know, but to understand that, and maybe you want to write that down because that's how important it is. Because every one of these practices begins with emptiness. And then out of this emptiness arises this wisdom deity. So my identity, so the body, speech, and mind, the body, speech, and mind, the embodiment of the body, speech, and mind is the indestructible nature of emptiness wisdom. The indestructible wisdom of emptiness wisdom. So if you write that down, that's a meditation right there. You can spend a couple hours sitting and contemplating that.
Lance, could you repeat it one more time as I write it down, please? I want to make sure I got it right.
Yeah. My identity, my embodiment is the indestructible nature of emptiness wisdom.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the all-pervading emptiness. Okay, so out of that comes this. Then the next line says, from the all-pervading emptiness, a many-colored lotus appears. On the lotus are moon and sun discs, surmounted by an orange-colored mum syllable, the nature of my own awareness wisdom. So go back to the picture now of Manjushri, and we see that out of that comes the lotus flower, and then on top of that is the sun and the moon disc. So exactly what I was talking about before. So this is arising, and then there's the mum syllable that is sitting on this moon disc. So if you go to page in your book, for a moment, if you go to page 34, you go to page 34, and you see on the right side of the page, there is a golden yellow mum syllable. And you see it in the Sanskrit, and you also see it in the English. So that is the seed syllable and is the essence of Manjushri, who is on that cushion, on that lotus flower on the sun, on the moon disc, and so on. So there's that mum syllable, and is the nature of my own awareness wisdom. So what that means, my own awareness wisdom, the essence of that, the nature of that. This luminous syllable radiates colored light in all directions. It is offered to the Buddhas and purifies all obscurations in the 6 realms. The light returns and is absorbed into the syllables, and I become Manjushri, brilliantly golden in color, with 1 face and 2 arms, and so on. So first, this mum syllable is on this pedestal. Light from it is going to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So you can think of it that here is this diamond nature that we have. All the deities are within this diamond nature, and the light from this syllable is going to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It is igniting the light of all the within this pure diamond. So it's being ignited by this yellow. And then, so from their hearts that are being symbolized by each of these facets of the diamond, from their hearts is all going back to the seed syllable of the mum. So it's kind of like charging it. First comes the light from the mum syllable, then the light goes to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Then from them, it comes back to the mum syllable. So it's like charging it up. It's like magnetizing that light. It's amplifying that light, making it stronger, and so on. And then that light purifies all the obscurations of the six realms. So we've talked about that in the past, about the 6 human realms. the Deva realm, the demigod realm, the human realm, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hell realm beings. So it's sending this pure light of wisdom to all those beings. They may not recognize it, but the light is there. Then the light returns, is absorbed into the syllables, and I become Manjushri, brilliantly golden in color, with one face and two arms. My right hand raises the wisdom sword above my shoulder, and my left hand, raised to the heart level, holds the thumb and ring finger, the long stem of a lotus that blossoms at my left shoulder. On the lotus is the 100,000 verse Prajnaparamita text. I am wearing a 5-pointed crown adorned with a blue-black top knot, and I'm cloaked with silken robes and precious ornaments. Seated in the Vajra position with smiling countenance, I radiate the glorious signs of the Buddhas. So Manjushri is a bodhisattva. He is one of the 8 great bodhisattvas. So he is the spiritual son of the Buddhas. So it's on the path. So we go through the experience of being Manjushri in order to be able to stabilize our Buddha nature, to become Buddha. Our goal is to become Buddha. But in order to do that, we go through the progression of the 8 great bodhisattvas. So all this is the human experience. All this is a human experience within ourselves as human beings. It's not out there. It's all within ourselves. Any questions about this? I think I gave a little bit of a brief, talk about each of these lines here. So here you can see it written down. Yes, Mark? Oh, okay. I thought you were saying something. All right, so then it says that the 3 special places are the white, red, and blue colored syllables. So at the 3 special places, the forehead, it symbolizes the body of the deity, the body of the Buddha. At the throat, it symbolizes the speech of the Buddha, the speech or the intellectualization, the activity of the Buddha. And the heart symbolizes the mind of the Buddha, the 3 special places. So the white comes from the body at the forehead, the red comes from the throat, and the blue comes from the heart center. Okay. Lights radiate, red, white, and blue colored syllables. Light radiates from the syllables, inviting the divine wisdom being who dissolves inseparably into me with the syllables Za, Hong, Bam, Ho. So we begin this process by taking the visualization of the deity, the image of the deity. So whether you have this card or you just are closing your eyes and you're visualizing it, but you're visualizing him facing you above and in front of you, like up here. So I've got facing me. So you visualize this. And so it says, inviting the wisdom deity who dissolves inseparably into me, Za Hung Bam Ho. So I'm visualizing that from his body, speech, and mind, from his 3 places, the white, red, and blue is coming into my 3 special places. The white here, the red here, the blue here, and the light is coming into me. Then he sits on top of my head, and then he ultimately comes down into my heart center. So we are connecting with the deity. So he's up here, and we're connecting with him by going Za. So you're taking both your hands like this. Okay, so the right hand, your forefinger is hooking onto the left little finger of the left hand. You're hooking onto the deity. This is Za. Za, you're hooking onto the deity. Then you switch hands, and now your left forefinger hooks onto the right little finger, and you're tying yourself up. Za, hung. You're tying yourself up like with a lasso, with a rope. You're tying yourself up with the deity. Za, hung, bam. Then your left hand is out like this, so it's it's facing you. The knuckles are out, and then you're taking your right hand, and you're bringing the fingers together like this, and you're moving your right hand down a little bit. Can you see that? This is hung. This is like a chain link, and you are chaining yourself. You're locking yourself up with the deity. This is Za Hung Bam. Excuse me, Za Hung Bam. This is Bam. You're chaining yourself to the deity. And then you take your left hand out like this, and you take your right hand, and you're taking your right forefinger, connecting it to your left forefinger, and your little finger, your right little finger, and your left little finger, and knuckle to knuckle. And this is a bell, and you are rejoicing that this has come together. You're rejoicing. So it's like ringing a bell. Ho. So it's za, hong, bam, ho. I'm locking, I'm hooking, I'm tying myself up, binding myself up, I'm locking myself up, and I'm rejoicing at becoming the Buddha, at becoming the deity. So this is called a mudra. These are mudras. So these are nothing more than mindfulness techniques to help us to connect these, our body, speech, and mind together. You know, we're trying to get to the spirituality of our heart, and we're doing this through the intellectualization of these words and these visualizations and these mudras and so on, to help solidify, to help us to stabilize our mindfulness of doing this. Ultimately, it all becomes spontaneous, and it just all becomes spiritual, you know, with no having to think about it. But at this point now, we're building up to be able to get to that spontaneity. So we have to go through these stages. This is the practice. Okay, is this making sense? Okay, so then again, the three colored lights radiate. Invite the Buddhas of the five families to appear in front of me. So Za Hong Bam Ho. So now we're inviting those five Buddha families. Remember at the crown where the five Buddha families, we're inviting those five Buddha families to come into us, to appear in front of us. And I'm offering flowers, incense, light, scented water, nourishing cakes, and music to them. So then we say, this next part says, Om Sara Tathagata Abi Kensa Tu Mam. It says, Om, all the Tathagatas, please grant me the Abhishekata Mam. So the italics is the translation of that Sanskrit mantra there. And the Abhishekata is the empowerment. That's the Sanskrit word for empowerment. So we're requesting all the Tathagatas, all the thus gone ones, all the Buddhas, to grant me the empowerment, Mam. So the Mam is the wisdom, speech power, or the wisdom power of the speech, to bring this all in together into my heart center. So then the next line says, by this request, I am empowered by the Buddhas who pour the vase nectar on the crown of my head. filling my whole body with nectar and purifying all the obscurations. That line is repeated. You can cross out that line on the next stanza, and then it says, the nectar overflows at the crown of my head, becoming Buddha Varanchana. The nectar overflows at the crown of my head, becoming Buddha Varanchana. The Buddhas of empowerment then dissolve into me. So you can visualize that you're taking the empowerment, the dutsi, the amrita, the blessing, nectar. We receive that with by the lama. And we pour it into our hand, a few drops into our hand, and then we drink it, so it comes into our body, and then whatever residue is left on the palm of the hand, we put on the crown of our head, and this is visualizing that this becomes the 5 Buddha families. So this is the empowerment blessing. This is the part of the ceremony that is the empowerment that I become this particular deity. So it says, filling my whole body with nectar and purifying all the obscurations. The nectar overflows at the crown of my head, becoming Buddha Varanchana, who is one of the 5 Buddha families. He's the head of the 5 Buddha families. And the Buddhas of empowerment then dissolve into me. So all this is all dissolving into me. So all this visualization, you see. So next comes the offerings. So this is a longer offering mantra than we've seen before. So Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bajra Argam Sarva Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Hum. Okay, so now I'm going to define this for you. So Om is the enlightened body, speech, and mind of the deity. So if you want to take notes, this is Om is the enlightened body, speech, and mind of the deity. Manjushri is his name, and Manjushri is the Bodhisattva of wisdom, and Jana means the wisdom, this perfection wisdom. Sattva is a holy being. So, and Bajra is indestructible. So those 4 words, Manjushri Jana Sattva Bajra, means the indestructible wisdom holy being Manjushri. Everybody get that? Okay, and then Argam is the offering of drinking water. And this is the mudra for the drinking water. And included in one of your mailings that I sent to you should be a sheet of paper that illustrates all the different hand mudras. So it may be difficult to see, but if you look at it hard enough and try this and see here. So this is like a pitcher of water that you're pouring drinking water. So we're offering drinking water. So this is Argam. Then the word Sarva means all. This is all Sanskrit. This mantra is in Sanskrit. Sarva means all. Puja means the puja is the ceremony. And then mega means great. And samudra means the holy gesture. The samudra, the holy gesture. You see that the word mudra is in there, and sa makes it a holy gesture. Then saparana, the 2 words together, saparana, means pervaded, pervaded. And then the word samaye, or samaya, samaye, samaya, means primordial vow. The primordial vow. The word ye, Y-E, means primordial. So sama is the vow. The sama, S-A-M-A, is a vow. Means the vow, the promise. And hung means to make manifest in the heart. This wisdom being manifest in the heart center. Hung. So this is these are the offerings. So the 8 offerings is argam, the drinking water, and the washing water, padyam. If you look down the next line, the next mantra, you see padyam. You see that word there? So that's padyam. So we're scooping up water to wash our feet, to wash our face, to wash our hands. We're making this offering. And the next line, we're making the offering of padyam. Padyam, pushpam. Pushpam are the flowers. We're offering flowers. So here's the flowers opening up. So we're offering flowers to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And the next one after that is dupam. So dupam is the incense. So we're offering incense. We're purifying the atmosphere to keep away any negativity or confusion. So incense is dupam. Then the next one after that is aloke. So aloke is light. So this is a butter lamp or a candle. So my thumbs is the flame. And then my fingers coming together to the knuckle at my thumb is like the lamp itself. And then the flame is the thumb. So whether it's a candle or a lamp like that. So we're making offering of the light. And the next after that is Gande. And Gande is the perfume water, the scented water, that cools. So my fingers up like this is like the aroma of the scented water that is evaporating and cooling and leaving a nice scent behind. And my finger, my thumb and first finger is just symbolizing, well, that's the bottle of the perfume or something like that. So Gande. And the next one after that is Nuitea. And Nuitea is the food. So here we're offering a plate of food to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Nuitea. And then the last one is Shabda. So Shabda is music. So this is like playing a drum. So I'm taking my ring and my thumb and first finger and little finger, and then my fingers here, and just playing a drum, beating a drum. And if you have instruments, if you had the bell, you'd be ringing the bell. If you had the damaru drum, you'd be sounding the drum. So this is rejoicing. This means rejoicing. So putting this together, we have to imagine the mindfulness of this is that you live in India 2,000 years ago, and there are no paved roads, and you live out in a farm someplace, plantation or whatever, and your closest neighbors are 25 acres away or something like that, and you have other family that lives much further away, and you've invited them to come to your home for whatever event you want to have. So they're having to come across these unpaved roads in the heat of India to get to you. And in the process, it's very hot and so on. So when they arrive, the first thing that you offer them is something to drink. You offer them drinking water, argon. The next thing you offer them is washing water to wash the dust and dirt off of their feet, off of their face, and off of their hands. So you're offering them padyam. Then you're offering them flowers. So when you offer flowers, it always puts a smile on your face as you offer it, and it puts a smile on their face as they receive the flowers. Then you're offering the incense, because you're in India, they would burn the incense at the threshold of the door that leads into their home, into their house, so that evil spirits, so that negativity doesn't cross the threshold, because those evil spirits, etc., don't like the incense. So they stay away. So this is the symbology. This is where it comes from, the culture of this. So the incense is keeping away the negativity, the incense. Then the next one is the alakam, which is the light. You go inside the house, and regardless of what time of day, it's going to be darker, and you light the candle of wisdom, or the light of fire, the butter lamp of wisdom, just to lighten up, the darkness of being inside. It represents the wisdom. So you're burning the light of wisdom inside the house. So that's the aloke. Then the next one is the gande, that you're offering perfume, because it's hot and sticky. And if you take perfume, scented water, you put it on your body, it evaporates very quickly, and it has a cooling effect. And plus, it smells very nice. So people inside, they didn't have Dial soap in those days, or Zest, or deodorant, or anything like that. So this is how they managed to stay together like this. So it's a very practical, right? Okay, so that's Gandhi. The next, now you're offering food. It's time, have a meal. Here we're having food, and we're coming together and everything, and talking and celebrating and all that. So you're offering food, and then finally, now it's time for the music. Now it's time to sing some songs and maybe do a dance and things like that. You're playing music. You're rejoicing that we're all together. Everybody's happy. We just had a very nice meal and everything. So these offerings come out of that culture from India. That's what would happen. So we're visualizing that these deities that are within our heart center are guests. We want them to be permanent. We want them to stay. But in the beginning, they're guests. So we're welcoming them as guests. And maybe through my practice, it will stabilize and they will stay. And that will be wonderful. So these offerings are in that mindset to be able to do that. Any questions about the offerings? Okay.
Lance, what kind of incense do people burn? Is it the Nag Champa? I was just curious.
Oh, sure. Whatever, there's so many different kinds, and it really doesn't matter. So Nag Champa, or the Tibetan incense, in India, it's called dupe. Incense is called dupe. That's where dupe comes from.
Thank you. So it's more of just the idea of it versus anything highly specific. Like a
Right.
smell.
Well, it's the incense, but whatever flavor, whatever form it comes in is all okay.
Got it. Okay.
Choose what you want. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So then I want to get through the praise part, and then we're going to take a break, and we'll come back and finish up and do the practice. So this long praise, we're on page 32. So this is pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to read it. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. And if there's points that I need to be emphasized, then I'll stop and talk. So the long praise is, his wisdom is brilliant like the sun, free of the clouds of the two veils, and perceives the various types of knowledge in their true nature. For this reason, he holds the wisdom text at his heart. So the two veils are the veil of ignorance and the veil of delusion are the two veils. The wisdom, the veil of ignorance is what we don't know, and the veil of delusion are the things that we obscure ourselves. It's one thing not to know something, but it's another thing to know something but then obscure it. So that's like a delusion, that we live in a delusion, that we create a delusion for ourselves. So free of the clouds of the two veils, and perceives the various types of knowledge in their true nature. So we talked about the phenomenal knowledge, we talked about the wisdom of the phenomenal, and we talked about the absolute. For this reason, he holds the wisdom text at his heart. He has compassion for all beings who suffer the darkness of ignorance in the prison of samsara. So that's pretty obvious. As a father for an only son. So there's many stories about that, but we won't go into that right now. But we can appreciate how a father wants to, educate his children. Like a thunderclap, he awakens those who are sleeping in ignorance and loosens the chain of karma through the 60 branches of harmonious speech. So like a thunderclap, so very suddenly, very spontaneously, he awakens those who are sleeping in ignorance. So sleep is a metaphor for, our not being awakened, for our not being enlightened, that we are going through this life in a sleep, that we don't know what's really going on. So those who are sleeping in ignorance and loosens the chain of karma through the 60 branches of a harmonious speech. So that's the delusion. The delusions that we tell ourselves, the lies that we tell ourselves, the emotions that we create for ourselves. And the 60 branches of harmonious speech is a metaphor for all the different practices, the intellectualization, the voice of the Buddha, being able to talk in ways that all beings can understand, that it doesn't matter where they are, what age level they are, what they're, whether they're rich or poor, man or a woman, whatever, that these 60 harmonious speeches reaches all beings. He wields the wisdom sword to cut the seedling of suffering and to dispel the darkness of confusion. So it's cutting through the confusion, cutting through the delusion, cutting through all that, and is also cutting through the suffering that comes as a result of that. Just as a slight aside in how cultural, these things can be, in Nepal, it is said that Manjushri cut through the Himalaya mountains and created the Nepal Valley through his wisdom sword. That's where the Nepali Valley came from, was Manjushri cutting through the mountains to do that. Okay, so then the next line says, in the Bodhisattva form, he is pure from beginningless time, fully accomplished in the 10 levels, perfect in the knowledge, in the body of all knowledge. So in the Bodhisattva form, if you look at his image, he's got the necklaces, he's got the headdress, and he's got the silks that he's wearing and so on, and some other practices. They talk more in detail about all those aspects of what he's wearing and so on. So that's all Bodhisattva. The Buddhas would be basically naked, or they're just wearing very simple robes. But the Bodhisattva has more implements and more ornaments as part of his what he wears of his image. So in Bodhisattva form, he is pure from beginningless time. So there's no beginning. There's no, it's the Alpha and Omega, before the beginning and the end. It's timeless, unborn. From that purity comes fully accomplished in the 10 levels. So the 10 levels we have talked about a little bit with the 10 bhumis. We talked about that last time in Buddhism, in the Buddha Study 101 that we did. We talked about the bhumis, the 10 bhumis, the 10 levels of perfection of becoming a bodhisattva in order to finally become Buddha. 10 levels, perfect in the body of all knowledge. So he is the holder of knowledge of the phenomenal as well as the absolute. I supplicate you, Manjushri, adorned by the 112 signs of a Buddha, to dispel the darkness of my ignorance. So there's 32 major marks of a Buddha, and you can read that in the Jewel Ornamental Liberation, or you can look it up in some other books. You can Google it, and there are 80 minor marks. So the 32 major marks are physical attributes of the Buddha, different features of the Buddha's body and so on. And the 80 characteristics are more like personality and the way in which the Buddha actualizes in Nirmanakaya form for the benefit of other beings. The characteristics of the Buddha, the 80 minor marks of being a Buddha. So altogether that adds up to 112 signs of a Buddha. So to dispel the darkness of my ignorance. So that's the long praise. And then the short praise is, you who are the perfect youthful body, whose flame of wisdom blazes and dispels the darkness of worldly ignorance, I prostrate to you and praise you, Manjushri. That's the praise. So you can draw a line there, or a mark at the end of where it says Manjushri, and say that is the praise. Then there's a rejoicing at the end of that. We ring the bell and so on. Then the next stanza where it says, at the heart chakra is a sun disk. This is the visualization. This is the mantra visualization, what the mantra means. It says, at the heart chakra is a sun disk on which stands the mum syllable, surrounded by the mantra circling clockwise in golden light. So we're visualizing the disk, the sun disk. There's a sun disk and the mum syllable standing on it. And the mantra is circling clockwise, so we can take our little finger and our thumb, put that together as the mantra, and our three fingers as the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha or the Bodhisattva, and going around the seed syllable. The seed syllable is the mum that is in our heart. So we can visualize this going round. Light radiates from the mantra, invoking the blessings and energies of all the Buddhas, which dissolves into the mum syllable. So all this, remember before that all that light has all come into the mum syllable. So now all that light is going out from the mum syllable, charging up the syllables of the mantra, and then going out to all beings. Again, light radiates and transforms the outer universe into the superb Pure Land and purifies all the obscurations of sentient beings, who are then transformed into Manjushri. All are reciting the mantra together. The light returns to the seed syllable. So this light goes to the seed syllable, goes to the goes to the mantra, comes back into our heart. Then from our heart, then it goes out to all beings through this mantra again, going out to all beings. And we begin to visualize all beings as Manjushri. This is how we become the Bodhisattva or the Buddha. This is how we purify ourselves, that everything becomes the Buddha field. We don't see anything as negative. We don't see anything as dual. We see everything as the same. And the same in this particular case is Manjushri. We see only wisdom. And of course, this takes a lot of practice to be able to do that, because we have a lot of discursive thought. We have a lot of things that are coming into our minds to move us away from this. But this is why we repeat the mantra over and over and over again, that we may get a moment of clarity, that we may get a moment of glimpse of the purity of all beings becoming Manjushri, of all beings becoming on the Buddha field, becoming the mandala. So this is what takes the practice. This is how we purify ourselves. This is how we become Buddha. So then the next page is the mantra, Om Wagi Shva Rimam. Om is the enlightened body, speech, and mind. You can see on the back of this card, Om is the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. Wagi means the Lord Manjushri. Shva means wisdom. And Mam is the seed syllable, is the wisdom speech. So this Lord Manjushri, the wisdom of Lord Manjushri is my wisdom speech. I am the wisdom speech of the Lord Manjushri. The mantra is the utterance of the Buddha or the Bodhisattva, of the enlightened one. So as we are doing this, we're pulling our physical body together with our intellectual body to open up our spiritual body, the realization of our spiritual body. So the mantra is a mind protection. So as we do this, the more proficient we become at this, the more we develop our one-pointed mindfulness, the stronger this becomes. Okay, so let's take a break now. We'll come back in 15 minutes. So my clock here says it's 10:45, so 11 o'clock we'll come back, and then we're going to do this practice from beginning to end. The dissolution we'll go and talk about that as we come to it. All right, I am going to take a couple minutes just to go over the mantra and the dissolution. I think we need to explain that. So Om Wagi Shva Rimam, we said, is the harmonious speech. That the Mum is the harmonious speech, the wisdom speech, and Lord Manjushri is the wisdom. The dissolution, it says, recite the mantra as many times as possible without the 6 faults. So the 6 faults: not doing it too loud, not doing it too soft, not doing it too fast, not doing it too slow. There's 2 others I can't think of right this second, but you can imagine that it's just, being proper about doing the mantra. And then the dissolution, and it says one should accumulate a minimum of 600,000 recitations. So that sounds like an insurmountable number, but we do it in little bits. So what we're going to do, we'll do this. Maybe we can do 2 or 3 mala rounds today. It's not a long mantra. It's not a difficult mantra to do. So, but it's through doing this that we have breakthrough. We think we can't do it. We say we can't do it. We don't want to do it. But when we do it, we find that there's a breakthrough of that was resistance that we were creating for ourselves. And that what we find is the peace of mind that we're looking for, the realization that we're looking for, the calmness that we're looking for. All those things are benefits of the accumulations of the mantras. Then we do the dissolution. So the dissolution is a meditation dissolution. So what we visualize is it says here, the outer universe dissolves into light, which is absorbed into myself. So we're visualizing all this phenomenal nature, all dissolving into light, all dissolving into myself, all dissolves into me. So we've already visualized all this as a Buddha field. While we're doing the mantra recitation, we're visualizing all this as a Buddha field. All beings are Buddhas. All beings are Manjushri and so on. So now they're all dissolving into golden light, dissolving into ourselves, into our heart center. And then I dissolve into the mum syllable, into the harmonious speech. So this harmonious speech, remember, is an intellectual wisdom, that realizes both the ordinary or the relative as well as the absolute. So all this is dissolving into this mum syllable that is within me, which dissolves from the bottom up into a nada. So if you look at the orange syllable there, you have to imagine that above that little circle that's above the main part there, the ma, that orange circle, above that is a flame. There's a flame that is burning, that is flickering, and it becomes and it fades. The syllable dissolves into the flame, and the flame dissolves, becoming invisible itself into the emptiness, into the shunyata, which dissolves from the bottom up, gradually becoming emptiness. I meditate in the bliss of non-duality of subject and object. So I meditate in the bliss of non-duality. So as our mind wanders, we bring it back to the flickering flame, and we bring it back to the bliss that is the non-duality of subject and object. So all the different positive, negative, all the different dualities, all dissolving into one and becoming invisible. So that is the meditation. Okay, as our mind wanders, we bring it back to the visualization. So are there any questions, comments? And then we're going to start the practice. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Where did you go to start?
To start, where are we going? I'm sorry, you're mute. Your microphone muted.
You're going to page 32 or 34?
29. So what we'll do today, we're just going to do the English. We won't have to recite the Tibetan instructions, but we will recite the mantras. So the Sanskrit, all the mantras are in Sanskrit. So the Sanskrit was the language that the Buddha taught in. So by reciting these mantras in the native Sanskrit, you say, we set up the vibration, the same harmony as with the Buddha. And that vibration has not ever stopped. That vibration has never begun. It is that vibration, if you will, that metaphor of a vibration that goes through all of our nature, who we are, both spiritual and practical. Okay. So we begin on page 29. Let's start on page 28 because I just want you to see this, because the italics there at the bottom of the page 28. It says, I prostrate to the Guru, inseparable from Manjushri. This is the short practice of the heroic wisdom being. Sit in the proper position, recite the preliminary prayers of refuge and bodhicitta, then meditate in the state of emptiness, free from all dualistic conception. meditation on all-pervading emptiness. Om Shanyata Jana Bajra Sobhava Atmako Goham. From the all-pervading emptiness, a many-colored lotus appears. On the lotus are moon and sun discs, surmounted by an orange-colored mum syllable, the nature of my own awareness wisdom. The luminous syllable radiates colored light in all directions. It is offered to all the Buddhas and purifies all obscurations in the 6 realms. The light returns and is absorbed into the syllables, and I become Manjushri, brilliantly golden in color, with 1 face and 2 arms. My right hand raises the wisdom sword above my shoulder, and my left hand, raised to the heart level, holds between the thumb and ring finger a long stem of a lotus that blossoms at my left shoulder. So please adopt this position. Take your right hand over your head. Visualize you're holding that wisdom sword. Your left hand, your thumb and ring finger at your heart level. And it has holding the stem of the lotus flower that has the Prajnaparamita text at your left ear. On the lotus is the 100,000 verse Prajnaparamita text. I am wearing a 5-pointed crown adorned with a blue-black topknot and then cloaked with silken robes of all the Buddha, cloaked with silken robes and precious ornaments. Seated in the Vajra position with smiling countenance, I radiate the glorious signs of all the Buddhas. So during the mantra recitation, you can adopt this body position with your hands like this to help you when your mind begins to wander. It's very powerful. At the 3 special places are the white, red, and blue colored syllables. Light radiates from the syllables, inviting the divine wisdom being who dissolves inseparably into me with the syllables za, za, za. Use the mudra. Za. Look at me. Use the mudra. Za. Hom. Bam. Ho. We're hooking. We're tying. We're chaining. We're rejoicing that we become inseparable from the deity. Again, the 3 colored lights radiate and invite the Buddhas of the 5 families to appear in front of me. I offer flowers, incense, light, scented water, nourishing cakes, and music to them. Om Sara Tathagata Abi Kensa Tu Mam. By this request, I am empowered by the Buddhas who pour the vase nectar on the crown of my head, filling my whole body with nectar and purifying all the obscurations. The nectar overflows at the crown of my head, becoming Buddha Varanchana. The Buddhas of empowerment then dissolve into me. Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bajra Argam Sara Puja Mega Samuja Saparana Samaye Hong. Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bajra Padyam Sara Puja Mega Samuja Saparana Samaye Hong. So as we're doing this, we're doing the mudras. We're gathering the blessings. We're gathering the blessings. So my left hand is a bowl that is holding the blessings. My right hand is scooping the blessings into my heart. Then I switch. My right hand becomes the bowl. My left hand is scooping the blessings into my heart center where the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are. So I'm gathering. Then I'm doing the mudra of the offering. And then I'm making the offering. As we take and click our fingers, here is the offering. Samudra Saparana Samaye Hong. And then I'm supplicating. Om Manjushri. We'll start at the beginning. Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bhajra Argam Pratitsa Mudra Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Hong. Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bhajra Padyam Sara Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Hum. Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bhajra Pushpam Sara Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Hum. Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bhajra Dubam Sara Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Hum. Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bhajra Aloke Sara Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Hum. Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bhajra Gande Sara Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Hum. Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bhajra Nuitea Sara Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Hum. Om Manjushri Jana Sattva Bhajra Shapta Sara Mudra Sama Sara Sama Sapava Samaye Hum. His wisdom is brilliant like the sun, free of the clouds of the two veils, and perceives the various types of knowledge in their true nature. For this reason, he holds the wisdom text at his heart. He has compassion for all beings who suffer from the darkness of ignorance in the prison of samsara, as a father for an only son. Like a thunderclap, he awakens those who are sleeping in ignorance and loosens the chain of karma through the 60 branches of harmonious speech. He wields the wisdom sword to cut the seedling of suffering and to dispel the darkness of confusion. In the Bodhisattva form, he is pure from beginningless time, fully accomplished in the 10 levels, and perfect in the body of all knowledge. I supplicate you, Manjushri, adored by the 112 signs of a Buddha, to dispel the darkness of my ignorance. You who are the perfect youthful body, whose flame of wisdom blazes and dispels the darkness of worldly ignorance, I prostrate before you and praise you, Manjushri. In Tibet, we recite that. Zanu kuluk chang wapo yeshe jome rab tu bar jig ten tong mog mong sawa jompel zang jay jag sao to. At the heart chakra is a sun disk on which stands the mum syllable, surrounded by the mantra circling clockwise in golden light. Light radiates from the mantra, invoking all the blessings and energies of all the Buddhas, which dissolves into the mum syllable. Again, light radiates and transforms the outer universe into the superb pure land, and purifies all the obscurations of sentient beings, who are then transformed into Manjushri. They are all reciting the mantra together. The light then returns to the seed syllable. You have your beads. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. Om Vagishvari Mam, 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 Om Vagishvari Mam. 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 Om Vagishravimam, 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 Om Vagishravimam. Om Vagishravimam, 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 Om Vagishravimam. Om Vagishravimam, 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 Om Vagishravimam. Om Vagishravimam, 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 Om Vagishravimam. Om Vagishravimam, 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 Om Vagishravimam. Om Vagishravimam, 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 Om Vagishravimam. Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Om Rageshwari Mam Om Rameshwari Ram Om Rageshwari Mam 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 Om Rageshwari Mam. Now the dissolution. The outer universe dissolves into light, which is absorbed into myself. I then dissolve into the mum syllable, which dissolves from the bottom to the top nada, gradually becoming emptiness. I meditate in the bliss of non-duality of subject and object. Now we'll do a 10-minute meditation, dissolution meditation, visualizing this dissolution as we just said. So stay in the meditation position. Most importantly, keep your back straight. Breathe in as deeply as you can through both nostrils, bringing the breath all the way down to your abdomen. Expand your belly, expand the abdomen, and hold the breath for as long as you can. Exhale, squeezing the abdomen, squeezing against your belly, squeezing all that negative, stale air out of your lungs, and hold that empty breath. Breathe in again. Expand the belly, hold the breath, keep your back straight. Exhale, squeeze the belly. Hold the breath. Breathe in again. Exhale. Breathe at your own pace now. Keep your back straight. Visualizing the lights all coming into the mum syllable. The mum syllable dissolving, becoming invisible into the nada flame, fading into the emptiness, to the shunyata. Your mind wanders. Just bring it back to the visualization. Bring it back to breathing deeply. Stay relaxed. Stay peaceful. Just catch a glimpse of the mind being peaceful, the quietude. Take a deep breath and hold it. Raise your arms up over your head if you can. Don't hurt yourself. Bring your hands together and look up between your hands at the ceiling and stretch your body. Stretch your back, stretch your arms, stretch your neck. Relax. Let your arms come down to your side. Exhale. Breathe in again. Inhale. Raise your arms up over your head. Look up at the ceiling and stretch. Exhale. Relax your arms. Once again, inhale and hold, bring your arms up, look at the ceiling, hold the breath. Exhale, relax your arms. Breathe normal, open your eyes. Once again, I assume the form of Manjushri. And we says, say the dedication prayers before entering into the 4 actions. The 4 actions are pacification, are enrichment, is magnetizing, and purification, subduing. The dedication prayer. The first 2, yes. By the light of your wisdom, compassionate one, may the darkness of ignorance in my mind be dispelled. To realize all the sutras and commentaries, please grant me the power of radiant wisdom. Whenever I want to see you or want you to clarify my confusion, Lord Manjushri Goka, may I have a clear vision of you without hindrance. You, Manjushri, have performed great deeds to the furthest limits of the 10 directions for the benefit of all sentient beings. May I and others perform the same activities. And the next page. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind. Where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. By the blessing of the Buddhas who attained the 3 kayas, by the blessings of the innate truth of Dharma, and by the blessings of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtue as pure as white snow of the mountains, may the teachings of Ratnashri flourish in the 10 directions and dispel the ignorance of all sentient beings, and they will at last achieve the Buddha's perfection of wisdom. Very good. Thank you. Does anybody have comments or questions? How was that?
That was great.
That's a great practice. Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. So this practice you can do as often as you like. You can do the Shenrezig practice if you prefer. You can alternate. But if you can, create a goal for yourself, if you have the time, 1 hour, and do the opening prayers that you need to do, and then do this practice, read through the English like we did, do the Sanskrit where it's necessary for the mantras, make the offerings and so on, and do 2 or 3 mile around recitations of the mantra. It's very, very great. Together with doing the meditation, the dissolution part. If you have a timer on your phone, many of these phones have timers. There's a particular app that you can get that is a meditation timer that has these bells that are very good. So if there's anything we can do to help, if you want to talk about it, that'd be great. But that's what this is about, is to develop a daily practice for yourself. Okay, then if you have your 101 book, if we can do the dedication by Lord Jigdan Sumgun, that'll be our closing dedication. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate road of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mothers sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Maras, and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lance.
You're welcome.
Lance.
Maybe you can take your card and put it in a prominent place so it reminds you of the practice and to do the practice, and that you have the potential of being Manjushri.
Thank you.